I heard everything through the glass door. Logan Price, our CEO, stood at the head of the boardroom table speaking to 6 board members. Addison's been instrumental, but we need to streamline leadership for the merger. She's out. My hand froze on the door handle. Out? I'd built this entire deal. I'd brought the acquiring firm to the table. The board nodded along like puppets. Logan continued smoothly. We'll handle her exit quietly. She won't make trouble. I stepped back from the door before anyone noticed me. My face felt hot, but I kept it blank, expressionless. I walked back to my office, sat down, and opened my laptop. I wasn't going to fight him in that boardroom. I had a better plan. My name is Addison Thorne, and I'm a strategic partner, not some junior executive or assistant. I'd spent 3 years building client relationships and leading major pitches. I personally brought in the company we were acquiring. Their CEO had specifically requested to work with me after I'd consulted with them 6 months earlier. This merger existed because I'd spent countless hours building trust, demonstrating value, and proving our firms were a perfect fit. Logan knew all of this. He'd praised my work in every meeting. But now he was erasing me from the story completely, taking credit for everything I'd built. I stared at my computer screen, my mind racing through options. Fighting publicly would make me look emotional, unstable, but staying silent would let him win. Just 3 weeks ago, Logan had been calling me irreplaceable. We'd celebrated the preliminary deal over drinks at an upscale restaurant downtown. "You're the heart of this company, Addison," he'd said, raising his glass. "I couldn't have done this without you." He'd laughed at my jokes, asked about my weekend plans, and promised me a partnership position after the merger closed. I'd believed every word. Now, looking back at those conversations, I felt sick. The praise had been a smokescreen. While he smiled to my face, he'd been having side conversations with the acquiring firm without me, cutting me out of meetings, repositioning himself as the sole architect of the deal. The gaslighting was so smooth, I hadn't seen it coming. I started going through internal files that afternoon. My name had been systematically removed from merger documentation. Presentation decks I'd created now listed Logan as the primary author. Client communications I'd written were attributed to leadership. Even meeting notes had been edited to minimize my involvement. My heart pounded as I clicked through folder after folder. This wasn't accidental. This was deliberate erasure. I felt panic rising in my chest, but I forced myself to stay professional, to think clearly. I opened a cloud storage account and started copying everything. Every original document, every email thread, every presentation with my name on it. If I was going to be cut out of the story, I'd keep the receipts, all of them. My calls to Logan went straight to voicemail the next day. Calendar invites I sent got declined without explanation. Colleagues avoided making eye contact in the hallway. Then HR scheduled a performance review for Friday. I knew what that meant. They were building a paper trail to justify my removal. The slow erasure had begun. I was being ghosted by my own company while still employed there. I sat in my office that evening long after everyone else had gone home, staring at my phone. Then it rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. "Addison Thorne?" a woman's voice asked. "This is Victoria Sterling from Apex Industries." My stomach dropped. That was the acquiring firm. "We need to talk," she said quietly. Victoria was a senior executive at Apex, and she sounded confused. "I apologize for reaching out directly like this, but something's not adding up. Our team is going through merger documentation, and your name keeps appearing in early communications. But Logan's been telling us he spearheaded this entire deal personally." I chose my words carefully. What exactly has he been saying? Victoria explained that Logan had positioned himself as the sole relationship owner and strategic architect. He'd claimed I was support staff who helped with administrative details. My blood went cold. He hadn't just cut me out, he'd lied about my role entirely. "That's interesting," I said calmly, "because I have documentation that tells a very different story." Victoria was silent for a moment. Would you be willing to share that documentation? Privately, of course. I spent that night building a clean, professional timeline. Every client interaction, every strategic decision, every pitch I'd led. I included emails, meeting notes, and client testimonials specifically mentioning my work. Nothing aggressive or emotional, just facts, dates, and evidence. I sent it to Victoria the next morning with a simple note: "For your review, I believe in transparency." Her response came 2 hours later. "Thank you for this. We'll take it under serious consideration. Please keep this conversation confidential." I agreed. Then I saved every message in 3 different places. The acquiring firm now knew the truth. What they did with that information was up to them, but the seeds of doubt about Logan had been planted. I just needed to be patient and let them grow. Work became an isolation chamber. My coworkers pulled away completely, probably warned by Logan to distance themselves. Rumors flew about my performance issues and attitude problems. Someone accidentally CC'd me on an email thread where colleagues mocked me as too emotional for executive leadership. I read every message, saved every screenshot, and said nothing. Let them laugh. Let them think I was defeated. The storm was already moving, and they had no idea. I showed up every day, completed my work flawlessly, and smiled politely at everyone. Inside, I was counting down. The acquiring firm's final decision meeting was scheduled for next week. Everything would change then. I just had to survive until Monday without breaking. I could do that. Logan made his big presentation to Apex's leadership team on Thursday. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I had allies now who kept me informed. Victoria told me later that Logan had walked in confident, smiling, ready to seal his victory. He'd presented the merger strategy like he'd created every slide himself. Then Apex's CEO had asked a simple question. "This is impressive work, but wasn't Addison Thorne part of developing this strategy? Her name appears throughout the early documentation." According to Victoria, Logan had stuttered, fumbled, said I'd helped with some research but wasn't a strategic leader. The CEO had nodded slowly, his expression unreadable, but Victoria said she'd seen doubt in his eyes. Logan's story wasn't holding up under scrutiny. Victoria invited me to lunch on Friday at a small cafe across town. I arrived nervous but tried to stay calm. We ordered coffee and sandwiches, making small talk for the first 10 minutes. Then she leaned forward. "I'm going to be direct with you, Addison. Our leadership team is reconsidering the management structure post-merger. Logan's version of events doesn't match the documentation, and frankly, several of your clients have reached out praising your work specifically." My heart pounded. "What does that mean?" I asked carefully. Victoria smiled. "It means we're looking at a fresh leadership slate, and your name is at the top of our list. We want you leading this integration, not your current CEO. Are you interested?" I almost couldn't breathe. "Very interested," I managed to say. HR called me in Monday morning with a performance improvement plan, 30 days to meet impossible metrics. It was designed to force me out. I read every page carefully while the HR director watched me nervously. When I finished, I looked up and smiled. "I'll meet every goal listed here. Thank you for the clarity." I signed the document and left. The HR director looked confused, probably expecting tears or arguments. But I had no reason to fight anymore. I'd meet their ridiculous standards for exactly 3 weeks. Then I'd walk out on my own terms into a position they couldn't imagine. Logan had tried to trap me. Instead, he'd trapped himself. The irony was almost funny. Almost. I still had work to do before I could celebrate. Apex delivered their ultimatum to Logan on Tuesday. Victoria called to tell me about it afterward. They told him directly they wanted me in a senior leadership position post-merger, or they'd reconsider the entire deal. Logan had apparently gone pale. "Addison doesn't work here anymore," he'd said, lying smoothly. The CEO had leaned back in his chair. "That's unfortunate," he'd replied coldly, "because her presence was a significant factor in our decision to move forward. If she's truly gone, we'll need to reassess whether this partnership still makes strategic sense." Victoria said Logan had backtracked immediately, promising to work something out. But the damage was done. They didn't trust him anymore, and I loved every second of it. I prepared my resignation letter carefully, timing it perfectly. I'd resign on Friday afternoon. Apex would make their final decision and announcement on Monday morning. Logan would have an entire weekend to panic with no way to reach me or control the narrative. I drafted the letter 3 times, making sure every word was professional and graceful. No anger, no accusations. Just a simple statement that I was pursuing an opportunity better aligned with my career goals. I printed it on good paper and put it in a sealed envelope on my desk. 2 more days. I could survive 2 more days. Then everything would change. The anticipation was almost unbearable. But patience had gotten me this far. I wouldn't blow it now. Logan cornered me in the parking garage on Thursday evening. His smile was forced, desperate. "Addison, we need to talk. I think there's been a misunderstanding about your role going forward." I kept my face neutral. "What kind of misunderstanding?" He stumbled through an apology, claiming he'd been under pressure from the board, that I was too valuable to lose, that we could work something out. I watched him scramble, remembering every lie, every stolen credit, every deliberate erasure. Then I smiled. "That's very kind, Logan, but I've already accepted another offer. I'll be resigning tomorrow." The color drained from his face. Another offer? With who? I turned and walked to my car. "You'll find out soon enough." His voice calling after me faded as I drove away. I signed the executive partner contract with Apex on Friday morning. Full authority over the integration, senior leadership title, compensation package that doubled my current salary, complete control over building the merged team. Everything Logan had promised me and then stolen. Victoria handed me the contract with a smile. "We're excited to have you, Addison. Your integrity and strategic vision are exactly what we need." I read every page carefully before signing. When I finished, I had one request. "I'd like you to hold the public announcement until Monday morning. Give me the weekend to resign properly and tie up loose ends." They agreed immediately. I submitted my resignation to HR at 4 p.m., exactly as planned. Then I turned off my work phone and went home to wait. The announcement hit Monday at 8 a.m. Apex Industries names Addison Thorne Executive Partner for Strategic Integration. The press release detailed my experience, my client relationships, and my vision for the merged company. It mentioned the merger deal briefly, but focused primarily on my appointment. Logan wasn't quoted anywhere in the article. I read it 3 times over coffee, letting the reality sink in. I'd done it. I'd turned his betrayal into my biggest career victory. My personal phone started buzzing with congratulations from former colleagues and industry contacts. My work phone, which I'd finally turned back on, showed 17 missed calls from Logan. I deleted every voicemail without listening. He had nothing I needed to hear anymore. The consequences he faced were entirely of his own making. Natural cause and effect. Actions and their inevitable results. I'd simply refused to be complicit in my own erasure. Industry whispers started immediately. Former clients pulled their accounts from Logan's new consulting venture before it even launched. His name became associated with dishonesty and credit stealing. Recruiting firms stopped calling him. Conference organizers withdrew speaking invitations. His professional reputation collapsed within months. I watched it happen from a distance, feeling oddly detached. I hadn't destroyed him through sabotage or revenge. He built the fire himself through years of taking credit, manipulating narratives, and believing his own lies. I just stopped protecting him from the flames. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop covering for someone else's inadequacy. Let them stand on their own merit. Most can't. Logan certainly couldn't. His fall was spectacular precisely because it was entirely his own doing. Logan sent a long, desperate email 3 months after everything fell apart. The subject line read, "Can we talk?" I saw it come through while I was in a meeting with my new team. I opened it later that evening alone in my office. He'd written 4 paragraphs apologizing, explaining his stress, asking for a conversation, saying I'd made my point and wondering if we could move forward professionally. I read it twice, felt absolutely nothing, and closed it without responding. I didn't delete it, I just left it marked as read. The silence was the message. Some betrayals don't deserve acknowledgement or closure. They deserve exactly what I gave him. Nothing. Complete indifference. The absence of my attention was more powerful than any response could have been. I walked into my new corner office on the 40th floor, watching the city spread out below through floor-to-ceiling windows. My name was on the door. My team sat in the conference room waiting for our morning meeting. I'd built this, not through manipulation or theft, but through actual work, real relationships, genuine value. I opened my desk drawer to put away my bag and found an old photo someone had left behind. It showed Logan and I at a company event 2 years ago, both smiling. I stared at it for a moment, remembering who I'd been then. Someone who believed loyalty mattered more than documentation, who thought hard work spoke for itself. I'd learned better. I threw the photo in the trash without a second thought. I led my first executive meeting with the merged team that afternoon. 50 people filled the conference room. Some familiar faces, many new ones. I stood at the front and laid out my vision. Clearly, we're building a culture based on transparency, merit, and mutual respect. No politics, no power games, no stealing credit. Only results and integrity. People nodded, taking notes, asking thoughtful questions. After the meeting, a young woman approached me nervously. She was maybe 26, clearly brilliant, but uncertain. "I just wanted to say," she started, then paused. "It's good to finally see someone like us in charge, someone who actually earned it." I smiled at her. "Keep doing excellent work. Document everything, and never let anyone make you smaller to make themselves feel powerful." She left smiling. I left the office late that night, the last one in the building as usual. I walked alone to catch a cab, the city lights reflecting off rain-soaked streets. My phone buzzed with another congratulatory message, but I didn't check it. I was thinking about everything that had brought me here. The betrayal, the documentation, the strategic patience, the refusal to be erased. Revenge was never the goal. It never had been. I'd simply refused to disappear, to shrink, to make myself smaller so Logan feel more powerful. And when you stop accommodating other people's inadequacy, they don't know what to do with you. They panic, they crumble, they reveal exactly who they've always been. I smiled as my cab pulled up. Know your worth, document everything, and never fight for a seat at someone else's table. Build your own damn table instead.